Hey guys, it's Matt who's here with SawHorse, and I'm at one of our clients' houses that we're going to call this the McClean residence. That's not their last name. That happens to be a name of a street that's nearby, just for privacy reasons. But I want to talk to you about a couple different things as we're getting started. We've got the floor system framed out, but I want to rewind a little bit. I want you to see what the existing house looked like, kind of what the floor plans looked like, and why, in my opinion, that we probably should have voted to tear this down versus trying to rebuild this. If you remember on the 1920s house, one of our other projects, we said that we can't tear the house all the way down because we have a side yard setback issue. That means that the house was built over a historic line, but it's not the current line in the allowable area we're allowed to build. So because this house is over, and I'm actually standing on the area where we're not allowed to cross, and as you can clearly see that this framing and this wall behind me is over the setback. So in order to preserve this line and not have to completely redesign the house and design it from scratch, we basically are keeping the foundation, we're keeping this wall back here to preserve some of the historical markers that are in this property. All right, now that we decided to keep the house, let's talk about some of the challenges we have with keeping an older structure like this. Well, first of all, the foundation wall down here, it's not in great shape. So we have to plug in where we've got existing foundation vents, because we're gonna go with the closed crawl space system. They attempted to have a crawl space system down here before. They had some plastic. We thought we could keep it, but once we pulled up all the decking and kind of took a look at it, it was in really bad shape. So we went with the Stego system, the Stego crawl system. We're putting that throughout the whole crawl space, attaching it to the foundation. And I'll kind of go over some of the things you have to prep for an existing crawl space to do that. But if you're going to have an encapsulated crawl space, there's several other things you have to do. One, you need to make sure it's completely sealed. So we're going to block off all the foundation vents. We have most of them blocked off. We found a couple that we still need to block off. But you also need to prep the soil and make sure everything's clean. So right now the guys are going through the crawl space. They're taking up all the nails. They're taking any construction debris up. That way, when we put the plastic down, nothing's going to puncture the plastic. Now with the Stego product, there's a 10 mil. I believe there's a 15 mil and a 20 mil as well. So we have the appropriate mill for here. Now code is 6 mil, just that clear plastic, and that's what goes down. So we're actually opting for something that is much more durable than the code compliant 6 mil. So we recommend at least a 10 mil, and with the products that we use, they're reinforced. That way, if anything does come in contact with them, you're not gonna have an immediate hole where water vapor and things like that are gonna come through. So one of the reasons that we're putting the plastic down now versus later, once we have the complete floor system in place, is some of the existing parts of the crawl space they're there, but they're inaccessible. You could probably crawl into them or barely crawl into them. So we're gonna go and put the plastic down in the areas where it's more difficult to get to later, get that sealed up, get it appropriately attached to the foundation, and we're going to attach the rest of it later. The reason I don't want to attach the rest of it in the main part of the house, I want the framers to finish first. That way, if anything falls through, we're not messing up the clean, pristine look of the vapor barrier down there. But also, we're not going to be as rushed, and we can go ahead and make sure that every penetration is properly sealed. We're going to use a double fastening system. We're going to use the Stego tack tape, which goes on. It's going to adhere to the wall. We're probably going to use some sort of sealant, and possibly also where we're overlapping, we're going to use the tack tape, and we're going to use another tape that goes onto the surface of it. Now, most crawl space people, installers, they only use one layer of tape. And they don't do a very good adherence to the actual existing block. We're going to use a double layer plus some sort of adhesive. That way we don't have to worry about it pulling off the wall in the future, and also vapor and stuff coming through those penetrations. Hey everyone, before we dive into the rest of today's content, I've got a special announcement to make. Today's video is sponsored by SawHorse, and we have created a dedicated page to cover all the products that we reviewed on this channel, so you can buy these products yourself. So every one of these we either have a video for, or we have images showing you how we use these on our projects. We provided a link to our shop in the upper right-hand corner and also in the description. Now let's get back to today's content. All right, so let's talk about some of the things that make SawHorse different than other builders. First of all, we like to use products that are more durable. We're using, in the crawl space here, we're using the Stego crawl. We've used that on several other projects. We use that on the 1920s house, one of our other showcase houses. And on this one, we're also using Advantech. You can see I'm standing on a piece of Advantech. But the reason I like using Advantech is the exposure rating. We're outside right now. There's no roof on the house. So if it rains and any of this gets wet, we don't have to worry about this OSB delaminating, because the way the adhesives that they use and some of the binders that they use in the Advantech allows it to be water resistant. So I've left a piece of this out for over a year before. Used a micrometer, measured it. I didn't see any swelling. This is a 3/4 inch OSB plywood, OSB that we're putting down. And if it gets wet, typical OSB, if it doesn't have those binders and those resins down there to resist the water, it's going to swell. So not only is this good for right now because we have all the exposure, but say like there's a water event in the future and there's like a water leak in the bathroom or something like that, you don't have to worry about the OSB, the Advantech, swelling too much where you have to replace all the tile. You can probably dry it out to a certain degree and everything is intact. You don't have to worry about any structural compromise with that. So with the walls, and since we're rebuilding this complete house, one of the things that you'll see us do, and we'll create some more videos on this, is how do you make an existing house perform as well energy-wise to meet the code and exceed the code as a new house. So one of the things that we're going to do is we're using the zip system on the outside of this. We're going to make sure all the seams are sealed. We're going to caulk the bottom and top plates. And so basically our air barrier is going to be on the outside of the house using the zip system. So the zip system is going to double as a weather resistant barrier and an air barrier. That way this house will be more efficient than any other house on the block, whether it's a new house that's just wrapped with basic OSB and house wrap, or if it's an existing house, and an existing house is probably going to perform 10 times as bad as this house because this one's going to be super air sealed. And since we do have some of these existing walls, we're not able to add the zip system because we have brick on the outside, and to take the brick down to basically get that weather resistant barrier on the outside is going to be very expensive. So we're going to air seal some of this from the inside, some of them from the outside, and we also have to make sure that we create a good drainage plan. So if any water is coming down the outside of the facade, we've got flashing on top of the brick, it goes over the brick. That way we can minimize any moisture that's passing through this wall as we design it. It's kind of tricky on existing houses, and typically if a house has siding on it, I recommend taking the siding off, putting the zip system on, creating that good weather resistant barrier and air barrier. But since we have a lot of brick on here, you know, thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars with the brick, it's not really cost effective to take that off, and there are other ways of air sealing this and managing the moisture within the house. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video, and we're going to create more videos on this particular house, and we're going to show you all the way where we started, from the point here. We're going to go back in time, show you some of the past photos of like what the house looked like before we got started, some of the framing, what this floor system looked like before we reframed it because it was in horrible shape, some of the challenges we had with that. And we're going to take you all the way through the mechanical design. We've got a world famous HVAC designer working on this house, Dr. Allison Bales, and we are going to show you how to get an Earthcraft certification on this project. So we look forward to taking you through this journey from start to finish, and how to take an existing house, make it perform better than a new house, beat the current energy code for new construction, exceed it to the point where an existing house is going to perform better than a new house. Thanks again, and see you guys next time.